Last week, working with Giuseppe, we focused on the engagement work with Storm. We want to make sure we can communicate with him clearly and effectively. And now today, we're going to be incorporating the commands as well as possibly teaching the stay and introducing loose leash walking. It really is going to depend on how much time we have. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to lure him onto the platform. Once he's on the platform, yes, I could say free during this stage, just like last week. We don't have to use the terminal marker. We can use either or, because we only have to worry about that when we introduce the command. Because if I lure him off the platform, there's no stay. Same if I lure him back on. It's also good when we're training our dogs to not only break it down into the smallest pieces, which helps them learn more effectively, but it also helps us as the handlers, especially when we're first learning. If I know that all I need to worry about is guide him off the platform, yes, and say yes the moment he's off the platform, that's my only responsibility. It makes it much easier.
Yes.
Okay, so you noticed you had him go on the platform, then you had him laid down, then you marked.
Yeah.
So in that situation, were you rewarding him for going on the platform, or were you rewarding him for laying down?
Okay, I see.
Right?
Yeah.
So when we're focusing on a specific task, we want to mark, we want to pinpoint the moment in time the dog completes the task that we're focusing on. And so on this one, we're focusing on him coming off the platform, and we're focusing on getting him on the platform. So once he does it, that's when we reward. And I just handed him the food since I was talking to you, but ideally marking and rewarding. So let's give it another shot.
Yes.
Nice, much better. And now let's do the same thing going back on. So once all 4 paws are on the platform, you're gonna mark and reward.
Yes.
Excellent, much better. So very simple, because we've already established we've already taught him how to follow a lure. So adding something new like this becomes very easy since we're incorporating something he already knows. And that's why those first 3 steps are so important. Teaching the markers, that engagement training, teaching the luring, and which we're going to do right now, teach him the leash pressure. Now remember, leash pressure is negative reinforcement. We turn pressure on. When he complies, we turn it off. When we're teaching a dog leash pressure, what we're doing is we're essentially presenting a problem to the dog. We're making the leash slightly tight, and we're telling the dog, this is not gonna go off until you provide the correct solution to the problem. And that's following the pressure. So if I pull the leash directly in front of him, he needs to walk forward. If I lift up, he needs to sit. If I pull down, he needs to lay down. Well, I can't tell him that. I can't say, hey, when I pull forward on the leash, you're gonna have to walk forward. You got it? Okay, let's do this. We have to show him the best way that we can. So think of the leash pressure as a problem, and then think of the lure as the solution to the problem. So I'm going to present the problem, then I'm gonna give him the solution. So I'm not gonna let him become stressed out because I'm waiting for him to figure out the problem on his own. I'm just gonna give him the answer. So the way that we do that, and in addition, when we're doing leash pressure work, we're not pulling very hard. So I'm pulling very, very lightly, and I'm staying consistent. So one thing I'm not doing, which a lot of people tend to do, is they start to increase how hard they're pulling, or they'll do this, they'll pull a little bit and loosen and pull a little bit. It's a consistent pressure, okay? And then I keep my reward hand behind my back when I start, because I wanna start the pressure first, so he learns to turn off the pressure. If I do it at the exact same time, he's not learning the pressure, just like everything else. So what I have to do is I have to start to pull. Yes, well, he followed it, so that was very easy. Go to lift up, so there's the pressure. Now here's the solution. Now I turn off the pressure and I provide him the reward. Same thing when I'm doing the down. I start to pull down, there's the pressure. Now I provide the solution. I release the pressure and I give him the reward. So same thing when I bring it up, nice and slow. There's the pressure. Here's the solution. I turn off the pressure, I give him the reward. And I do this for all kinds of different positions, because we can use the leash pressure to reinforce expectations We use it to help teach the stay. We use it to help teach loose leash walking. We use it to help show the dog certain behaviors we would like him or we would not like him to perform, such as going into a certain room perhaps, jumping up on people, jumping up on furniture, running out into the street. We can use the leash pressure to teach him not to do these behaviors. And when we do it correctly, you see he's not stressed out, he's not worried, because I'm showing him what he needs to do. When a dog knows what they're supposed to do in any given situation, their confidence goes up. And contrary to popular belief, we don't want a submissive dog, we want a confident dog. Same thing with being a handler.
Yeah.
You're not going to be confident unless you know what to do. Once you know what to do, the confidence comes naturally. And now release the pressure because he followed it.
Oh.
Yeah, once he starts following it, we don't want there to be any pressure. So like often when we start pulling in front of the dog, people want him to feel the pressure, but if he's following like this, notice there's no pressure. That's good, he's doing it right. I don't have to add pressure if he's following it. Very good, buddy. But the lifting up, oh, and then he sat. So then I turn it off really quickly. So the way you handle the leash is very much determined on how the dog responds to it. Beautiful, now mark and reward, very nice. Same thing, try the sit. So lift up slightly, and then lure him with the food. Lift up, now turn off the pressure and reward. Good, now turn off the pressure. You can see how there's a little bit of tension still.
Yeah.
You want the leash to be as loose as possible. And there's another reason why I use these very thin, light leashes, because the less the dog can feel the leash, the better it is for leash pressure work, in addition to getting the dog to that off-leash status. Because if the dog feels the leash all the time, they're more aware of it. If they only feel it when we're trying to communicate something to them, then it becomes a very useful tool.
Okay.
Good. And let's try the down. The down is always difficult for people. So you're gonna have to grab closer to the collar on the leash. So you're gonna be very close up here. See how I'm like basically grabbing the clip at this point?
Yeah.
There's the pressure, here's the lure, I release, and then I reward, which I didn't even have a piece of food in my hand. No, people don't really fully understand leash pressure until they see it. And once they see how it's properly taught and implemented, it becomes such a powerful tool in communicating with our dogs, because that's what dog training is.
Yeah.
Being able to communicate with our dogs in a timely manner when they're right and wrong, and giving them a clear path to success. That's something one of my favorite dog trainers, Michael Ellis, says, and it's spot on accurate. If we can communicate with our dogs, we can train them. And that's really what this is. It's being able to add one more tool to that communication.
Sure.
So let's bring them back up into a sit. So apply the pressure first, not the food. Keep it consistent. Now lure with the food. Lift. No, don't just hand it to him. You lure him to get him to sit. So we bring it up. Come on, buddy. Then turn off the pressure and then reward. Again, the pressure is the problem. So I'm saying, here's a problem, buddy. This is not going to go away until you lay down. So you better lay down. And he doesn't know what I'm saying. So, and he does it. So that's great. I turned off the pressure and rewarded him. But since it's not a lot of pressure, you don't see a lot of resistance or stress. It's a physical cue, that's all it is. So again, I lift up, there's the problem. Now I'm just going to give him the solution. Come on, buddy. Come on, big guy. I could even stand up and be like, come on, you can do it. But I'm not gonna turn it off until he complies. Over here, there it is, right in your face. Come on, buddy. And a lot of times people would give up right here. They go, oh, well, he's not doing it. So he's distracted, so he still has to sit. Now he sits, and now I turn off the pressure. So even if you don't get the instant response that you want, you have to make sure you continue to follow through, because the two rules to leash pressure is, one, once the pressure is turned on, it cannot be turned off until they comply. And number two, the moment they comply, we have to instantly shut it off. And the more aware you are of the leash pressure as the handler, the more aware of the pressure the dog will be. And what I mean is, what people tend to do all the time is the leash will get tight, loose, they're not paying attention, they're doing this, and they're getting all kinds of random tension on and off. And so what happens? The dog completely ignores the pressure because it's meaningless to them. But the moment it actually is directed towards them, anytime you apply the slightest bit of pressure, he's gonna go, what's up, what do you want, what do you need? And then you can communicate. So let's try it one more time, and then we're gonna move on to the next step.
You want, go down.
Yeah, try the down. Beautiful, now release the pressure because he did it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so if he does it before you even help with the food, that's what we want, that's the goal. The goal is that I'll start to lift up and boom, he sits before he even feels the pressure. But it's a process to get to that point, and that's what we're working on right now. So that is showing us that he's already starting to learn it. So keep it and talk to him if you need to, whatever you need to do to get him to stand up. You can be like, come on, buddy, let's go. There we go. keep it going. Lift up above his head with the food, and once he sits, turn it off. Lift it up above his nose. There we go. So now turn it off.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, if you have it directly in front of his, come on, buddy. If you have it right here, that's not going to cue him to sit. It's the act of lifting up that cues him to sit. So here's the pressure. Come on, buddy. Let me turn it off. Very good. Very good. And then we can do the foot technique as well. There's the pressure, very light. And then we cue him down and then we release. So you have to have very good balance to be able to do that. But when you do this, what ends up happening is when I start to do this, before the leash is even tight, he would sit. Oh, very good, buddy. So he did it really nice there. And I'm going to reward him for that because we're still at the stage of using continual reinforcement, reinforcing every correct repetition. And then it gets to the point where we just lift our leg and you won't even touch the leash and the dog will lay down because they've learned that pattern. Again, they learn through pattern recognition. They're very good at picking up these patterns. You've probably recognized it. If the first thing you do in the morning is you feed him, he's ready to get some food. Yeah. If you take him out first thing in the morning, if you walk him first thing in the morning, whatever you do, they learn those patterns and they thrive on that. Giuseppe is doing great with the physical cues. His timing is looking really nice. He's gonna have to pay attention to when he marks behaviors. Although he's pretty close to doing it the way he's supposed to, these small adjustments are going to make all the difference. And we're gonna really be focused on that timing today. All right, so that's pretty good. You're gonna have to practice this. It's definitely a skill set, but once you have it down, it becomes very easy and effortless, and it makes everything else significantly better. So now what we're gonna work on is we're gonna work on incorporating the command to each exercise, and I want you to use both the luring as well as the leash pressure for each command that we're going to do. We're gonna start with sitting down because we can go back and forth between the two. And then we'll start incorporating the climb command, heel, center, all those other commands that are going to help with his training process. So first I'm gonna try with just the food lure. I'm gonna say the command. I'm gonna give him about a half second to process the word. Then I'm going to give him the physical cue that will get him to do the behavior. So the command is the question. I go, hey buddy, do you know what to do when I say sit? This is what you do. Come on, free. And then I mark and reward with the terminal marker so we don't have to worry about reinforcing the stay. And even though I said the terminal marker and handed it to him, if he's conditioned, he knows he can get up and he received the reward. So in the beginning when we're first teaching free, we move back and we get the dog to come and get it because that's teaching him that free means release and reward. But once he's conditioned, we don't have to do that. So again, we're gonna give the command down, then the cue. So you see that half second pause that gives him, sorry, I should have said free, but break, release word, gives him that moment to hear the word, process the sound, and then start to learn what comes after, which is the physical cue. So I like to think of it as questions and answers. The question's the command, the answer is the physical cue. Give the command,
sit,
now the cue. Free, and then reward. Excellent, very good. So now we're gonna do the same thing with down. Say the command.
Down.
Now the cue. Free. And then reward. And what's great with this too is people also like to get their dog to do commands at a distance because when we first teach commands, we're teaching the dog when they're directly in front of us, and that's the picture they get used to seeing. Yeah. But we also like them to perform the behaviors even when we're not right next to them. And a good way to do that is almost how you're doing right now. You just gradually get farther away and then you give the command, sit, and then you just follow through with the cue the same way free you would any other way. You just have to end up walking towards the dog to help them out with the cue, but they end up figuring it out. We don't have to run and rush. People are always worried about the 1 second. I got 1 second, 1 second. It's like, relax. You got 1 second to mark a behavior when they complete it. But the moment the dog knows, so like here's a common mistake people make, right? The dog does something and they go, yes, right? They pair the marker with the delivery of the reward. But the dog still ends up learning. And people go, well, if you have to say the marker before you deliver the food, how is the dog still learning? Well, the moment the dog sees the food coming, if every time I move my hand towards the dog, I give him a piece of food, then this becomes just as clear to him as a marker. But what's the difference between this indicating he's going to get a reward or saying yes or free, indicating he's going to get a reward? Well, one of them he has to see it take place, the other one he only has to hear it. So it becomes way more powerful and it becomes more transferable. You're making all kinds of funny noises. All right, so now we're gonna do the same thing, but this time with the leash. Now we would go down, then follow through with the cue. There's the pressure. Here's the lure, release the pressure, deliver the food lure. Good, very nice. Nice little massage while he's eating. Now we're gonna go right back up. Sit. I could even stand up, which often helps. There's the pressure. Now the cue, release the pressure, free, and reward. I was a little late on the free, but let's do it. I'm gonna do it without talking this time so I can pinpoint the correct time.
Okay.
Down, free. Very good, buddy. Nice. Sit, free. So you see, now he's starting to respond to just the leash. Without that extra help, he's significantly smarter than most Frenchies I've worked with. All right, so we're gonna give another command. Down, free. Very good. Excellent. He's learning quite rapidly right now. This is excellent. Sit, free. So you see how he got up again that time before feeling any pressure. That's what we want. Go ahead.
Sir, sir, sir.
That's fine, you can do it on the climb bed. So give the command and then start to cue him with the leash.
Sir, sit.
Free. He did it, so mark and reward. You asked him to sit and he sat. That's perfect, watch the pressure on the leash. Good, nice and loose. All right, so go ahead, let's do another sit.
Sit.
Now slowly start to lift up, walk, now turn it off.
Free.
And reward, excellent. So he's starting to respond very nicely to the leash. Let's do another down. Do it with the leash. So just like I did when I said the command, I just reached down and grabbed this part of the leash.
Okay.
So you don't have, you can't really pull down from there.
So you come down to his level.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Down.
Now move forward, help him with the leash, and free. And turn off the pressure. Today was a great session. I'm happy with Storm's progress. He started to get a little tired at the end, so unfortunately we did not work on that loose leash walking, but we did increase the communication by adding the physical cue with the leash pressure, as well as introducing commands. So I'm excited to see the progress that they make and what we're gonna be focused on in our next session. So for Giuseppe's homework, I want him to work on continuing to lure and add that leash pressure. I want the leash pressure to be very, very clear to the dog, to where Storm is following it without actually having to feel the pressure. And I also want him to work with his mom and to teach her the skills that he's been working on, so the dog is getting very consistent training throughout the entire household.
Yeah, that's fine.
Here, eat some more, buddy. Right here.